Is Super Mario making some giant missteps in Miami? Mario Cristobal, as we enter the 8th week, 8 weeks into his tenure as Miami's head coach, now has only 3 assistant coaches on his staff. You're allowed 10 coaches on your staff. He has 3, 8 weeks into his tenure. And by the way, National Signing Day is just a few days away this week. What's going on in Mario in Miami? I got some intel. I've got some insight here I want to share. First off, Mario Cristobal, fantastic hire by Miami, getting him to come from Oregon. We all know that. Goes back to his alma mater there, coaching the Hurricanes. It's his backyard. Great hire, one of the best hires here of this offseason. Miami spent a lot of money with that. But it's interesting to me that Mario went in there really with no idea with who his assistant coaches were going to be, what his full staff was going to be. And most athletic directors, when they hire a coach, they at least know that they have a handful of coaches that they're going to go after and try to hire. And then also the head coach presents to this AD, here are the names that I'm not only going to go after, but here are the names I know I can get, am going to bring on campus so that there is not as much of a transition as maybe you fear. Well, Mario Cristobal came to Miami, brought a few guys from Oregon with him, and then hasn't even really been able to keep them around. And so he's had at most 4 coaches on staff for the past 8 weeks. And now it's down to 3, the latest of which, Brian McClendon, really his lieutenant, off to Georgia, his alma mater, after being at Miami only for a few weeks. Brian McClendon, receivers coach, previously at Oregon with Mario, then Miami, and then gets the call to go to his alma mater at Georgia and decides to leave. Before that, Travaris Robinson, who was on the staff at Miami previously, the lone holdover on that staff for Mario Cristobal, he jets for Alabama. What kind of message does that send to, one, Miami recruits and to Miami fans? It tells me that Miami's not even the big dog in its own backyard in South Florida. The 2 teams that have won the last 2 national championships came into your backyard and took 2 of your hires, Mario Cristobal, nearly half of your staff already, because your staff is so little and so small. Those are kind of big losses. And cosmetically, it's something you've got to get over. I think it's a big loss early in the Mario Cristobal era. Now, I've been getting a lot of flack from Miami fans here lately saying, you're being too hard on Mario Cristobal. You're always out to get Miami because of what was going on beforehand, where I thought Mario Cristobal wasn't going to go to Miami. But this is where Miami sits today. I got my little trusty iPad here with all my notes. All my notes. I keep notes. But listen, Brian McClendon is a huge loss. All right. 2014 National Recruiter of the Year, according to 24/7 Sports. He leaves. T-Rob, former defensive coordinator, position coach on defense for Will Muschamp at South Carolina. He's gone. He decides to pretty much almost make a lateral move, probably for less pay, by the way, than he was getting at Miami, to go to Alabama, a proven winner. This is huge because South Florida, as we all know, is always just sparkling with 5- and 4-star talent. And this 2022 and 23, especially recruiting class, is humongous in South Florida. And losing Brian McClendon is huge because McClendon was recruiting, I think, 4 to 5 of these big-time guys, including receiver Brandon Ennis and then also Jaylen Brown, 2 5-star kids in South Florida. So really, for like the last week or so, he's been recruiting for Miami, but now he's got those connections with those kids and he's going to Georgia. You don't think he's going to continue to recruit them? Come on. That is a big hit to Miami and their future for the recruiting class. And then also, consider where Miami is sitting today. Mario Cristobal has a number 38 recruiting class in the nation heading into National Signing Day. 38. Not great. They're looking at best a top 20 finish if they can get a couple of 5-star commitments. You need 2 5-star commitments just to get in the top 20. That is not a good spot to be in, even in your first year, especially when you're at a big-time program like Miami in the state of Florida. That number 38 national recruiting class right now is worse than your in-state foes and rivals, Florida State and Florida. Florida, of course, is also going through a transition with a new coach, with Billy Napier. The difference there is Billy Napier was prepared with his staff and has a pretty solid staff in place. In fact, I ranked it as my number one coaching staff in the country among new coaches in the country. And not just because of the assistant coaches, but the support staff they built. Billy Napier had a plan. More on that later. It sounds like I'm piling on Mario Cristobal, but I want to get in, provide all this for you right now before I get into why this is maybe actually a good thing for Miami and not necessarily the world ending. So stick with me here, okay? It's not all bad, Miami, but you're behind those two. And UCF is nipping on your heels. UCF at number 43, just 5 spots behind you, according to 24/7 Sports composite rankings. And then here's what really kind of, I think, hurts Miami right now. Transfer portal is a spot where you can immediately go in, fix your ails, fill some holes, and you can do so quickly as a first-year coaching staff. Miami is doing even worse in the transfer portal right now. They're ranked 54th nationally. That's worse than Florida State, Florida, UCF, and FAU. Right in your backyard, FAU, right down the road, drive on down there. FAU's doing better than you in the transfer portal as of today. Now, I can't underemphasize that the issue here is the understaffing with Miami. Mario Cristobal went in without a staff in place, and then 2 of his guys leave, and he's down to 3 assistant coaches on what should be a 10-man staff. That hurts recruiting. Now, the other issue with Mario Cristobal, and I don't know the man personally, but I know people who do know him. I talk to people around the country who are around these coaches at all time and have coached for them and have written about them, even as writers. And I've got a good friend who's very close to Mario Cristobal, and he told me a little bit about the type of guy Mario Cristobal is. As you know, coaches across the country, they're all wired. I mean, they're up at all hours. That they're hard workers. That's the cliche. But we're moving into an era now where, yes, you can be a hard worker, but you got to be working smart too. I talk to so many coaching staffs nowadays where during a game week, used to be these coaches would stay in the office till midnight or whatever to work, to game plan, to even get some recruiting done, prepare for the next day even. But there's coaching staffs now where the head coach says, if you are not outside this office at 10:30 at night, if you're not out of here at 10:30 at night, then you're not doing your job correctly. If you're having to work harder than everybody else because you're not getting your job done in the time that should be allotted during the day, during the waking hours when people are awake, then you're doing something wrong and you probably shouldn't be on my coaching staff. I've had 2 head coaches at Power 5 schools tell me something very similar. Whether it's 10 o'clock or 10:30 at night, they want you out of that office. Now, I say that to say this. Mario Cristobal doesn't sleep. I had a buddy of mine who covered him and others that have been around him saying that this guy works till 2 a.m. in the morning. He sleeps maybe 4 to 5 hours a night. He drinks about a gallon of Cuban coffee every day just to keep himself going. He's hardwired. He's into it. He's obsessive. And he requires all of his staff members to be the same way, which can make him difficult to work for if you're not up to that same level as him, working hard at all times and really getting after it. Now, you hear all coaches say they work hard, they get after it and all that. Some do, some don't. Some work hard, some work smart, some do both. Not everybody, don't believe everything that a coach tells you in the media about how they have the hardest working staff or they're the hardest working or they're the smartest working even. But with Mario Cristobal, this guy works nonstop. And why is that? It's not necessarily because he doesn't trust his assistant coaches. It's just that he wants more and more and more. And he'll delegate some, but not much, as I've seen here in the last few years from other head coaches. This is a guy who believes he can do all the recruiting himself. That's why he's at Miami right now, recruiting his own backyard with a staff of only 3 other coaches. His other 2 have left, and it's just him and those 3 others. And he's going down to signing day after being on the job for 8 weeks, doing this all himself. This recruiting class is all on Mario Cristobal because it's his class. And he's trying to sell to these kids, hey, this is what we're going to be doing at Miami, but I can't tell you who your position coach is going to be. I can't tell you who your coordinator is going to be. Mario Cristobal has not hired a single offensive or defensive coordinator yet, though he did try, apparently, reportedly, to hire Kendall Briles, the Arkansas offensive coordinator, and failed to do that. But Mario Cristobal, hard worker, no one's going to deny that. But does he work smart? That's a big question I've got for myself. Because in recruiting, this guy obsesses over it like any coach. That's the lifeblood of any program. But are we seeing the early wins at Miami? Not necessarily. This is a guy who, in the spring months, wakes up super early, like every coach, everybody does it, and he'll send about 300 text messages and DMs to recruits before 10 a.m. in the morning. True story. So Mario Cristobal has had all this time to build a staff to help him, the type of staff that works as hard as he does so he can get them all there and maybe work smarter. He hasn't done that yet, and 2 of his coaches have left. So what's going on? The staff, the administration there at Miami has given Mario Cristobal about $8 million, $8 million, folks, to work with to hire assistant coaches there, including top tier coordinators. And Mario, I'm told, is looking at both the NFL level and the college level. The issue, though, I have with this is that practically every NFL team, for most of this time, for the last 2 weeks at least, have not been playing football. Coaches have been coming and going. On the college level, the coaching carousel is pretty much wrapped up. Every new coaching staff among the 20 plus that have come together are nearly finalized or have been finalized, including at rival Florida just up the road. And yet Mario Cristobal has been on campus for 8 weeks and hasn't gotten his staff together. Now, the reason for this is because Mario Cristobal is slow and methodical with his hires. At Oregon, he would take weeks to make decisions. He would go through a litany of interviews with assistant coaches. He was very, very, very careful with who he'd hire because he wanted guys that would get after it like him and saw everything from the same wavelength. That's perfect and well to do. But is he an outlier in college football these days with that? I kind of think so. Or is he working too hard, as I said? Is he working harder and not smarter? The best coach in the business is Nick Saban. We all know that. And Nick Saban goes out, gets the type of coaches who will, 1, challenge him at times, but at 2, are the best out there. And listen, it's easier to do that when you're Alabama, you're Nick Saban, you've proven yourself over 30 plus years of coaching, and you're obviously the greatest of all time. But Nick Saban doesn't really wait all that long to make decisions because he has, obviously, like a lot of people, notes. He has a long list of notes of guys that he wants to hire or would be candidates. And yet Mario Cristobal is sitting there in Miami recruiting and working hard and drinking coffee to keep himself going. And yet he hasn't really made any big hires while all these other college coaches are coming and going elsewhere. They're coming and going. So if Mario Cristobal is going to truly go get a big name on the college football level, it's going to have to be probably someone who has turned down at least several job offers this past offseason or recently maybe even changed jobs. That makes it much more difficult, and that will cost a lot more money for Miami to lure those type of coaches. Also, maybe he is going to go the NFL route and get some guys. We'll see. But it is very strange to see this going on so long for 8 weeks where he really has not made any big hires. He's just brought along a couple of guys from Oregon with him and made one other hire. And these last 2 departures with Travaris Robinson and Brian McClendon are huge because not only did he lose them, but he lost them to Alabama and Georgia, your 2 primary competitors in recruiting outside of the University of Florida. And you lost them while you're trying to build your own staff. Listen, Miami has money to throw around now. I underestimated just how they're willing to throw around money right now. They're going to spend about $8 million potentially on an assistant coaching staff. Huge. They want to build a new stadium. They want to build new locker rooms. They finally have people stepping up off the field for them. Mario Cristobal is being slow and methodical with who he's going to hire. But these better be great hires after waiting so long. Otherwise, what we're seeing in recruiting right now at 2022, that'll transition into 2023. And you can't do that in back-to-back years, even early on in your coaching tenure.